Good afternoon. I'm Kate Olson, and I'm a hypnotherapist, NLP practitioner, Reiki master, and a life coach. And I'm here on the Embrace Change Radio website, and we're about to have a soul talk. And this soul talk is going to be on how to stop complaining. And I think that's a really, important topic in the effect it has on our lives. I'm going to be talking to Dr. Debbie Simmons, and she's the founder of Primrose
Healing and Wellness?
Yes, Healing and Wellness. I wasn't quite remembering what the rest of the name was. But I met Debbie at over at the Harvard Faculty Club in 2018, and we were both there for the Integrative Health Symposium. We were speaking, and after that I had her on Embrace Change Radio with Kate, and she was talking on the topic of suicide prevention, and I got to know her a little bit better, so I asked her if she wanted to talk about this topic, and she was excited to. So I'm excited to have her here, and I would like to have her tell us a little bit about herself before we get started. Debbie?
Sure. So, Kate, thank you so much for having me here again. I'm so excited to be talking with you, and I always love my interactions with you. So I'm from California, so Primrose Healing and Wellness is a holistic therapy center out in California, and we basically, our philosophy is to work with the whole person. Every treatment plan that we have is about designing a plan that's unique to each individual. The thing that I have been so impressed with you, Kate, is what you're doing, and the fact that you want to have a conversation about so many difficult things, I think, is really important. So it's great that I'm here out in California, but I want to know, what is it like for you to talk about people who are complaining, and how we can begin this conversation? This is going to be fun.
Well, the reason why I wanted to have this conversation is because we tend to have a predisposition to complain about things. I think they call that the negativity bias, and people do it all the time. I mean, it is just really a habit, and I don't think we're aware of all the time of how it really affects our lives. And I have noticed that the people who, seem to be most miserable also complain the most. And I think it's kind of a vicious circle. I mean, yes, you have reason to complain when things aren't going well, but I think the complaining also has a tendency to bring more of those things into your life.
Totally agree with you. I kind of believe when you brought up the topic, it was so important to me because I have so many feelings about this. We all know people in our lives who complain, right? I mean, I think if any one of us says, I know somebody who's like miserable being miserable, I think that's really true. Right? And I don't fault people for that. I get it. But I think what happens is that we're in a mindset. So many people are in a mindset where that's all that they know. And so it's like, not that nobody wants to be miserable, but I think we're familiar with that. So if we're unhappy and if we're miserable, we can complain about things, and it's like we're okay there because it's familiar. To make change is really difficult, right? So now here goes the next piece. How do you make change?
You just have to start. um, when I decided that I was going to do my radio show, Embrace Change with Kate, it was because I had made some big changes in my life, and they had had a big effect, and I wanted to share that with people.
Mm-hmm.
But I also realized that in the process of that, I had to kind of walk the talk, and
Yeah.
I had to uh, change some of the things that were part of my life, like many other people. And one of them was complaining. The other one was something that kind of goes hand in hand with complaining. And it was something that comes really naturally to me. And that is sarcasm. And I love good sarcasm. And I'm never going to give it up completely.
Good for you.
But I do have to watch how I use it, because sarcasm does tend to be negative, and it can roll right into complaining. I mean, people will jump right on that bandwagon because it's attractive because of the humor in it, really. And so I had to really change both how I did it myself and how I responded to it. Like a lot of times I'll see someone say something sarcastic on Facebook, and I will think, that's funny. But I won't respond to it, because the response
Right.
is going to be negative, and it's going to be kind of, uh, you know, uh, amplifying that negativity. And so, and when I first started trying to be positive, I got a lot of criticism from different people who inferred that maybe I wasn't realistic, or maybe I was seeing the world through rose-colored glasses or something. And that's really not true. I see all the negativity. Because of what I do for a living, I probably see, a little bit more than I'd like to sometimes. But I have chosen to focus on the positive. And it has really changed my whole mindset and how I deal with difficulties or problems or adversity, not only in my own life, but when I see it in somebody else's life. Go ahead.
Oh, you know what? I think I really respect what you're saying, because it's like, it's so easy to focus on the negative, right? And I remember, I mean, our whole political cultural environment right now, it's like, it's really scary. And this is where um this is why this conversation was so important to me. It doesn't matter my political, cultural, anything beliefs, but I remember the day that the last election that we had, right?
Mhm.
People were so, it doesn't matter what you voted and what you believed. the amount of clients that came into my office crying and fearful
Yeah.
was incredible. That's about negativity, right? And so what I said to people back in the day, and I say this time and time again, it doesn't matter what those things are out there that you believe in or you don't. You make a choice. What are you going to do in your little neck of the world to make a difference?
Mhm.
You can't keep complaining about your political leaders, the value, all these things that are out there that are affecting us all. Those are difficult.
Mhm.
You can choose to stay in that thinking, or you can choose to say, in spite of this, I'm going to make a difference in my little garden of the world.
Mhm.
And what am I doing? And I remember the election, a couple of years ago. I tried so much to say, what are you doing in your garden of the world to make a difference? Stop complaining, make a difference. That's so empowering when people can get to that point.
Yes. You don't have to really change your views at all. You can still think whatever it is horrible, is bad. It's just that you take action rather than
Then complain,
making
right?
statements that are
Yeah.
not going to do any good. And you'll feel better about it.
Complaining doesn't work, right?
Right. It doesn't change anything.
Negativity breeds negativity.
Well, yes, it does change that. It makes you feel bad. It make put you in a negative mindset where you're probably going to think more negative thoughts that aren't good for you in any way, your mindset or your health. I actually now, if I and this has happened to me, it's easy to get into a negative, well, I call them thought loops. um, it's easy to fall into it, especially if it was a past habit of yours.
Yeah.
And it's something that I don't do often now, but I I have it has happened. And when it happens now, I can actually feel how it is affecting my body as
Yeah.
well as my mindset. It takes away my energy. I can even feel somewhat sick. Sometimes I get a headache. um,
Okay, I'm going to push you a little bit on that one. So obviously, so what we do out here at Primrose is we're a holistic wellness center, and we talk about the body mind connection. So what you're doing is I'm going to challenge you. So tell me how negative thinking affects you physically, emotionally, and spiritually. That's a great question I'm going to put to you.
well, it just as I said, it actually has physiological effects on you, whether you like. I'm not taking that from. I could go from the neuroscience perspective, but I'm going from that. Hey, I don't know anything about that. I'm just noticing these physiological effects in my body, and I don't like them.
Yep.
And so I used to feel like I was stuck in these feelings and that they were legitimate. But I have learned that I can just stop. I can just stop thinking those negative thoughts and go in a different direction. And the feelings go away.
Good, right? It's so good. Yeah. Yeah.
And that's something, I didn't know before. I spent I don't know, years feeling that I had to suffer in these feelings that I was feeling. And you don't. You can just stop.
That's so good. And so you know this in your own personal life, which means you're going to be able to share that with clients, which is going to make you a fabulous therapist in terms of the people that you're working with.
Yes, and this comes from many disciplines. I mean, I mentioned neuroscience. It also is part of NLP training. It's part of several Middle Eastern philosophies. It isn't something that, people just came up with. It's, as you know, I mean, you can probably say someplace that I haven't mentioned that.
You have so much insight that you're going to offer to your clients.
Well, I think having different perspectives from different areas, I think is helpful because not everything resonates with every client.
Of course not.
And if you can find that one thing that makes sense to them, then it's easier for them. You're not going to change them, but it's easier for them to find the foundation to make the changes that they need to make or that they want to make. Usually that's.
Don't you love having this conversation though about negative thoughts and really helping people to understand that they really can change those thoughts? That's kind of cool, huh?
It is. The one thing I want to bring up is a lot of people, they feel like, why should you change these negative thoughts? They're part of reality. And, if you're not dealing with them, then you're not dealing with reality. That I've gotten this argument. But there's a whole spectrum of thoughts out there. And at any given moment, we get to choose what we're going to focus on.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you can choose to focus on all of the negative. At the same time that negative is happening, there is something positive happening.
Absolutely. When I hear that statement that you just said, we all know people in our lives who are always going to focus on the negative, right?
Mm-hmm.
No question.
Well,
but
I have hope.
Do we want to stay there?
Pardon? What did you say?
Do we want to stay there? Do we want to stay in the negative? I mean, that becomes our thinking becomes a choice.
Yes, it's every individual's choice. Some people do choose to stay there. I don't want to live there.
Life is hard, but we all have a choice, right?
Yes.
How do you want to live your life? For me personally, life is hard enough. I don't want to stay in the negative. How can I continue to put my thoughts into the positive? And so much of what I do with my clients, right, is how do you change that negative thinking?
Yes, and there are always, as I said, always negative things happening. And you do need to be aware and acknowledge them. And you can't really deal with a problem unless you're willing to acknowledge it and think about it. But you don't have to dwell there. You can say, yes, this is going on, And I can also go watch a beautiful sunset and enjoy it.
Totally agree. Yeah, totally. Yeah, yeah. You, lady, you are an inspiration. You are doing some wonderful things, and I want you to hold on to what you're doing because I believe in you, and I think what you're doing is some really wonderful things.
Well, I know that you are too, so thank you. Is there anything else, last thing that you would like to say about the whole subject of how to stop complaining and why that will benefit you in your life?
You know what I really believe is I think complaining is a choice. And I think that there are a lot of reasons in our lives that we have a lot of things to complain about, right? And I go back to, I will never forget the conversation that I had in 2016 when people were worried about the election, where I took everybody with anxiety was to this one place. You can't control the big picture, but what are you doing in your own little neck of the world to make a difference? You have every reason to make a change there, and that's up to you. And I always hold on to that.
Yes,
Don't
that's
complain.
true.
Don't complain unless you're making a difference.
It's true, and it's very pertinent right now too, because we're going into another similar period. So,
And you know what? And it doesn't matter. And the thing that makes me so angry is about the division that our country is in. It doesn't matter what your beliefs are. Okay, you can have whatever beliefs you want, but what are you doing to make your world a better place? Don't complain if you're not the person that's out there that's making a difference in your world. That is so important.
well, that is true, and it is not just the verbal complaining though. It's if you can't just shut up and still be thinking those complaining thoughts.
True.
You have to change the thought pattern as well as what you say verbally.
To challenge
I actually do know some people who very rarely say anything, but they have this negative thought track going on in their mind. So it affects them in a way that isn't much different than if they were expressing all of those thoughts. The only difference is that, you know, they're not affecting a lot of other people because they're not saying them out loud, but they are affecting them still in that negative way.
Yeah.
So,
No, your ideas are really, really important.
okay, well, I think for a change that we are coming in fairly close to the half an hour I aim for. And so I thank you for having this conversation with me. And
Oh my God, Kate, thank you. And just like, again, what you're doing out there is awesome. So hopefully people are listening to you. And if there's anything I can do to help you out, don't hesitate to let me know.
yes, and thank you for letting us see that beautiful view of the
I know the Golden Gate Bridge, right?
Yes.
I know, I was looking at the picture, it kind of changes. It's like, now it looks like a sunset.
Yes, it does.
So
So I hope that someone got something out of this, and we'll talk to you again soon.
all right, Kate, you take care of yourself and I'll talk to you soon, okay?
All right. Thank you.
All right, take care.